Hello, Hard Times viewers. Today we welcome country music singer-songwriter Allie Colleen. That's a cool name. Who was named Artist to Watch by People Country in 2022, one of the Music Mayhem's 21 Country Artists to Watch in 2021, and Wide Open Country's Artists to Watch in 2020. I just had to put all that in there. I love Artists to Watch because you are somebody to watch.
Thank you. We feel like we have been watched for years now, but I'm not mad about it. Hopefully I'll be watched forever. But we've continued to be on the rise for a while. So as long as I'm not on the decline, I guess I'm not mad about it at all.
Which is true because it says 2020, 21. I mean, why not keep being the person to watch, and
Right.
Because we know you're going to be the main headliner here any day soon, where it's just going to be your show and you're going to have someone else opening act.
The kind thought. I look forward to that. It'll be fun. The whole journey's been very, very cool so far.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful for it.
Well, first of all, let's talk about your new single, Grass on the Grave, that was released on May 10th. Tell us where that title came from.
Grass on the Grave was a follow-up to a song that we had put out prior to it in February called While We're Still Friends. And I think my writing over the years has always came, from different places, whether it be personal experiences or I think when I was a little younger, I was always trying to find what people, were needing and like what people were like, what other people are going through, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the writing season I've been in for the last year has been about myself. So it's all came from personal experiences for me just in the last couple of years of what my life has looked like and things like that. And as I said, my dream as a songwriter is to get to use songwriting to help myself, obviously, and to process things and write things and go through things. But ultimately, it is to write something that hopefully somebody else is having a very hard time, forming into words themselves and getting through. So Grass in the Grave came from a very personal season of my life. But overall, it's just supposed to be, 3 or so minutes when you're on kind of that backside of healing and like you just need that song that's just going to send you through your season. So you can get a lot of support from this song. You can get a lot of reassurance from this song. And as much as it strikes people as a song about literal loss of grief, as far as like losing somebody to passing kind of thing, as much as a lot of listeners have reassured me that they just lost somebody and this has been a really helpful song for them, this song just comes out of losing more so a season that you thought was going to be a different type of way, in your life kind of thing. But it's just all good things. It's, it takes time moving on, but there's grass on the grave is kind of where the whole thought lands on. Like, it's just things are getting better.
Yeah. I mean, that's something how people could see it, interpret it two different ways, right? Because if you see the title, you're like, oh, great grieving, and it can, I mean, if you wanted to, it could be a breakup song if you wanted to make it that way, you know what I mean? It's just like really done. What studio musicians worked on this with you?
I was so happy to get to choose all of these musicians myself. I handpicked them. I worked really, really hard on who I wanted, thankfully, because of having worked with both of them in the past kind of thing.
Yeah.
But Evan Hutchings, I'm a huge fan of for drums. So he came and he played drums for me. Saul Phil Cox played everything on my very first album called Stones. And took a really big part sonically in what that album turned out to be. So he was the band leader for all of these sessions and he came back in and he played, which was a huge honor for me just because, I mean, this kid's playing on every record in town that you've heard so far. So for him to take some time to come play on mine was a really big deal for me. And then I met Miss Rachel Loy for the first time, was my bass player.
Wow.
And I've never had a female in on a session before. And she ran the thing. Like, she was awesome. She was amazing and she did great. And then turns out she's an old bandmate of my producer that I chose as well. So Nashville always tends to be one of those, tiny, tiny towns where everyone already knew each other kind of thing. But I'm very, very proud of the people I pulled in to work on this. And then my producer, Dave Pahanish, played a little acoustic as well.
Yeah. I always love to ask about the musicians because they don't always get some of the credit that they need too, to bring amazing.
And they need it, and nobody ever does. No one asks about them. I don't hold the audience responsible for knowing how things are made. Like, I don't know how my toiletries are made. You know what I mean? Like, anything that runs my life, I don't know how it works. So I get it. But I love it when people pay homage to the studio musicians because for anyone who doesn't know, the studio musicians are not who gets to go on the road and play with you, as a band kind of things. So love to showcase those guys. I would love to have them on the road though, so bad. But that studio musician's a pretty sweet spot. They got a good gig right now.
Yeah, yeah. So do you, when you go out on tour, do you have a band or you do get studio got, you have a band, right? When you go out?
Yeah, when I go out on tour, I have a band. And for anyone who's ever came to Nashville, if you have or if you haven't, we have this big long street called Broadway where everyone plays covers all day long, kind of thing.
Wow.
And most of us come from that world, so most of us have all been Broadway players, and then we get to hit the road and actually go tour and kind of do what we wanted to do in the beginning, which was go and tour and do the whole life. And then the studio musicians, they stay home. They don't go on the road. They stay home. They do studio hours every day. They do like 3-hour blocks at a time, and they learn all the music and they play it and all that kind of stuff. So they're two completely different worlds, but they're both incredibly talented.
Well, thanks for letting us know, because sometimes we don't, we don't know what happens behind the
Yeah.
voices and the music. So that's pretty cool to know. I guess when I come to Nashville, which in a couple of weeks I'll be there, I'll have to make sure. Do they still
Yeah.
have the one place where Music Row? Do they still have like a
Music Row's still a thing. It is just as many apartments and high rises right now as it is studios. I know it, I know it, I know it. But
Oh,
it is still there. So Music Row's still doing its thing.
yeah.
Still the talk of the town. You can also just live there now if you want to.
Oh, you can. Oh, I remember back in the days when I'm in my 60s, when I was younger, my dad took me when I was like 10. It was just like so cool. Nashville was so different, the Ryman Auditorium and all that stuff. But I can't wait to go back and see what it's all grown up to be.
It is a different world now. I remember when I moved here for college, which was 10 years ago. So my 10th
Wow.
year in this town, which I think is bonkers. But I moved here when I was 17. And I went to college, and I remember my mama had lived here in the 90s, and she brought me up here for my college visit and everything. And I think of probably the 8 or 12 places she took me that she like remembered and really wanted to go to. I think one of them was still there. You know what I mean? I was like, Mom, we got to start Googling these
Oh.
businesses before we go, okay? Because we have spent all day driving to places that have not been here for years. Like, this town changes so fast and so rapidly. So when you come back, I'm excited for you to see all the changes, as well as hopefully you find some familiar things as well.
Yeah, which is always good. I mean, I believe in change. It's always nice to go back and see that something that you saw as a child is still kind of there. That's always the cool thing, even if it's one thing, right?
Yeah, no, that is very cool.
Where did you go to college? There in
I went
Nashville?
to Belmont. Yeah, I went to Belmont University here in Nashville.
Oh,
I got a degree in songwriting, whatever that means. It
yeah.
was awesome. It was awesome. It was a good way to spend 4 years for sure. But I graduated in 2018, and we've just been putting out music since, just trying to do the thing.
So your degree, songwriting, what was like your favorite class that you didn't think would be?
Um, I didn't expect to like the engineering part as much as I did. So there was one
Okay.
course where we had to take that wasn't so much audio 1 or 2, but it
Mhm.
was more so like it was almost like a prequel to that, in the sense of it was just a demo class where we just had to learn how to record our own work tapes and our own demos and stuff like that, as far as submitting them in like for our publishing and things like that goes in our world of songwriting. So I enjoyed that side a lot more than I thought I would. Whereas I thought it was like, no, I'm a great singer. You just give me someone who can record. Like, we'll work together. Like, I will always have to pay for a demo. It'll be fine. But I really enjoyed that a lot more than I thought I would. And then I think my candy of the whole time was I did 2 study abroads while I was in college. I did one in London and I did one in Ireland.
Oh,
And London was a gen ed for me still. So it was still like science and English kind of thing, but it was still
okay.
amazing.
Yeah.
But Ireland was for my major, and Ireland was strictly songwriting. And all of my assignments were to just go and explore and like write songs about what I did. And that was like the craziest thing to be like required to do for school. That was incredible. So I went over and I lived in Ireland for 8 weeks, and I just
Oh,
wrote about it. And it was the coolest thing that I've ever done. And it was a blast.
I can imagine some great love stories coming out of us, or love
Oh,
songs coming out of that. Oh,
it was.
right?
It was amazing. It was amazing. I fell in love with a horse over there. His
Oh,
name was Ben. Oh, I think about him every day.
oh my God. Are we gonna have a song that comes out about that one day?
Honestly, we probably might. Any love song I have, I want you guys all to know, goes back to a horse. It does not go back to a boy. It goes back to a horse because, oh, I love it. But that has been wild too. All the ways in life that I have found love that wasn't a romantic love that turns into complete and total muse for like my romantic songs. Like most of my romantic songs are not actually about any successful relationship I've had, because that's not the case, but usually about some very nice lady I met in a bar or a horse somewhere or something like that. Those are usually turn into my muses. I have two. I have two. I can see them. I can see them right now. I've got Jack and Einstein.
Oh.
They are exactly what you think. Jack is very handsome and useless, and Einstein is smarter than I am and makes me so mad all the time. But they're good boys. So I do. I have two horses, and we just do like Western pleasure riding. I don't do anything too crazy. But I love horses. I grew up in rodeo. I never competed, but I grew up with all my friends in rodeo, and my papa was a Mountie Patrol and all that kind of stuff. So grew up in that world and just.
Well, let's talk about while we're still friends, because we're friends now. How did Lee Brice get involved with that? I love
While
that.
We're Still Friends is my probably one of the more proud songs that I have. For a lot of reasons. Mr. Lee Brice has been producing my stuff for a little while now. So he produced a song called Halos and Horns and a song called Feels Like, as well as While We're Still Friends. So we worked together for a couple years now. We sat down in 2021 to write While We're Still Friends.
Oh.
And While We're Still Friends, I had to give it as long as I gave it to before we put it out, because it was just one of those things where coming out of, I think, 2020, as awful as it was, and as much bad things as we all took from 2020, there was a lot of things learned and experienced in that isolation that would not have been, learned or experienced had life just went on the way that it was. And one of those things for me was at the time I was married, and to one of the kindest human beings on the planet. He's an amazing man, a very kind man. But I think there was something about 2020 and us just being just you and me, buddy, like for days and days and days at a time, and that whole isolation of lockdown, where we learned that we weren't as similar as maybe we thought that we were. So While We're Still Friends was kind of a kick in the gut to me, in the sense of, as we've talked about, I've tried to write about myself my whole life. I try and write about other people, and sometimes I get a little confused. Sometimes I don't know who we're writing about. Sometimes I think I'm writing about you, and then I get kicked in the gut later when I realize I've been writing about me the whole time. It's been kind of tough. So all of that to say, we sat down in February of 2021 to write While We're Still Friends. And it was on the ride home from that co-write that I was like, this is just another song of a handful of songs that I don't want to go home and play for my husband and say, this was a co-writer's idea. Like, we're fine. Like, this isn't us, because it was us. And I just couldn't deny it anymore. So all of that to say, we've been very private about it up until the release of the song, because we wanted to give it all of the time in the world to heal and to do its thing. But believe it or not, a song can lead to something like that for me. So anyway, I am divorced now. My husband and I filed, I think, a month after we wrote that song, and we both listened to the song together, and we both kind of agreed, like, this is us. And that was really kind of harsh for both of us to realize and to understand. So all of that to say, sitting down with Lee and getting to be vulnerable in that kind of way and turning the song into something that was so astronomically large in my life at that time is ultimately too what led to Grass in the Grave. So it's kind of like they both sit together. And when it comes to Grass in the Grave, I remember walking in with my co-writers, because they had all just found out that I had gotten divorced and all these things. And they, when your co-writers find out that you get divorced or a breakup, it's not like a normal friend finding out that you have a divorce or a breakup. Your co-writers are like, how are we going to write it? How are we? And I'm like, calm down, you guys. We're not. Okay. We're not going to write it. And so when I walked into that write that day, they all just kind of looked at me like, listen, I know you've been going through a lot, but like, you've got to have something to write about, don't you? I said, gosh darn it. Yes, I do. I said, we're doing it once. I said, we're writing it one time. We get one post-divorce song and then we're done. Okay. That's it. We're not doing an album. We're not doing any of those stupid things. We get one song. And so that was what Grass in the Grave ultimately turned into, was that one last moment of really looking at that lifeline of that relationship and everything and going, everything's better. Like, it's taken time. There's grass in the grave. Let's go. And a lot of that was because so much of my fan base fell in love with While We're Still Friends for that exact same reason for themselves. You know, a lot of my fan base are also leaving relationships coming out of 2020, and we're leaving relationships in their lives and all those kinds of things. So it's kind of interesting that those two songs has helped me and my fan base kind of together kind of mourn all of these things in our lives that we're losing. So I think fans are incredible in that kind of circumstance of where without them, I'm just a girl in my room writing songs. You know what I mean? About heartbreak, like, wah. But when you get to do this and you're kind enough to like be received by people, and you get to kind of create a little fan base and a group of people, everything in your life just kind of becomes something that you can lean on together. And that's been very, very cool, and something I didn't really expect to learn from this business, being as private of a person as I am.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
I know I can't, we were talking before about, me coming to Nashville. It's like, now I really want to come and see you and hear you live, because, you don't get to know a person until you're introduced like this. And it's like you start learning your music, and it's just like, I'm just like crying in a good way, because I just recently went through a breakup that I thought was going to go the best way. And it was very hurtful, and, just to hear them. But I like songs that make me cry, because to me, it's a good cry. I don't feel sorry for myself. I just love it because it helps me to cry, because it touches me. It's a different cry.
It's almost kind of like, not permission, but it's almost like it's just kind of that little release that you get to have, like when your mama does finally, grab you and hug you and just lets you do your thing, or when your buddy's like, hey man, I just think you need to. It's just that like allowance. And then two, I love it because you've also got a time frame, right? When I hear a song that breaks my heart, I'm like, okay, I have 3 minutes and 12 seconds to experience this. I have 3 minutes to allow this emotion to take over my body, and I have 3 minutes to sit in this. And then once those 3 minutes are over with, like, we're moving on with our day. Like, let's go. So I also love that about music, is it sonically gives you a little safe space for a couple minutes, to feel how you don't want to feel. And then at the end of it, you can go, oh, that was the song's fault, I'm fine. And you can move on from it. Yeah.
Thank you for that. It's very good. Well, I also watched the video, which is very powerful. How did the video come about? Talk about that.
The video was probably the most vulnerable thing for me of all things. A couple people have really thought the video was a huge, just absolute middle finger, but it wasn't supposed to be. I didn't have any money after I paid for the filming, which I didn't know that that's how music video budgets work. I thought video budget was everything that you needed for the music video, and turns out not the case. No, I just paid for the cameras and the beautiful people that held the cameras. So I was looking at wardrobe and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do, and that is my wedding dress in the video. That is my wedding dress, because I didn't have a budget for anything else, and I spent a lot of money on that dress, and I wore it one time, and I don't need it for a vow renewal, turns out. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna wear my dress. And then same thing with the shoot itself. We didn't really have a location, and I didn't want it to just be me singing in a bunch of different places that didn't really cater to the song. So that is also my chapel that my family built. My dad built that church that's in the video. And that's and it is beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. It held 60 people. So we had a tiny little family wedding. It was beautiful. It was kind. It was awesome. I've always said, I don't know if I'll ever get married again, but I would have like 12 more weddings. That was so much fun. That was a blast. I've actually asked my best friend if she'd marry me just so we can plan a wedding, because I think it'd be so much fun. Oh, it'd be so much fun. It was a blast, and it was kind, and it was good. I wouldn't even knock gifts. I'd still have a registry if I had another fake wedding. I would. I would. It'd mainly be like tattoo money, but that's what would be on my registry next time. But the video was very cool. Jack, the gentleman that performed in the video with me, was incredibly kind. I met him that morning on site, so that was incredibly vulnerable as well, to meet Jack and to kind of share with him my experience, and to tell him, kind of who his character was and what they needed to be for me that day. Was very wild and very cool. And he was amazing. He was he did. He was hired. He was brought by the production company. So he's been in videos and films and stuff like that before. So he was very cool and very reassuring to me all day, kind of thing. And it's funny, a lot of the clips, he'll look all serious, but he was actually saying, absolute nonsense or something goofy or something just to make me feel good. Like he was He was awesome. So Jack was very cool to work with. Um, and then that's Beverly's house. Oddly enough, Bev let me use her house to shoot so that's Bev's bedroom. So we got to shoot everything in Bev's bedroom, which I thought was wild. And then my family's chapel, and then the driveway on the very last scene is my house, which was also very vulnerable for me, even though you can't
Yeah.
even like, I know that that's where my lifeline with that person happened. So that was wild that it all made it into the video. But so as much as I was surprised by the budget thing, and it's something I will always learn from, it was also put me in a space where I kind of had to be a little bit more vulnerable than I wanted to be. The result I was very happy with. I was very, very happy with what that video means to me and all of the things that were in it. And even giving the dress another lifeline and all of that stuff was very, very cool for me, as much as it also kind of made me crawl in my skin a little bit.
Well, it should win an award. It's an amazing video, and you did a wonderful job.
Thank Thank you. We're still hoping to get it out there in the world, get it seen. We were promised by a couple outlets that it would be premiered on a couple different things. And then I don't know if just, priority got in the way or what, but it just didn't happen. So I'm really hoping that video still kind of gets the life that it deserves, because we worked really, really hard on it. But at the end of the day, I'm proud of it as it is.
We'll put it in this article, and we'll also put it up on our YouTube channel too. So we'll push as much as we can too.
Thank you. I need
I'll
that.
I'll put it on my Facebook page out there, because it's worth watching. It's really, really good.
Thank
It
you.
really is. So also, how old were you when you got started in music? Like, when did that bug hit you? Early on in life?
I never didn't have it. I can't think of a time when I didn't have the bug. I started writing poetry and studying poetry as soon as I could figure out how to freaking read and write. That took me a little
Really?
longer than I wanted it to. So probably around 8 years old was when I started writing. And I started all of the stuff between like free form writing and stanza writing, and then even just like short stories, but just absolutely loved creating characters, and absolutely loved I loved creating things that my brain really cared about, that were questions that I had and experiences that I had that I thought were massive, that nobody seems to be listening to. You know what I mean? As an 8, 9 year old, my emotions always seemed too big, and they always seemed like a crazy little kid kind of thing. But then I found that when I turned my stories into songs, or if I sang them, or if I wrote them and I put other characters in it than me, all of a sudden people really cared about them, and they wanted to know where they came from, and they wanted to know why the character felt that way. Nobody ever asked me why I felt that way, but they would ask me about my characters. And I fell in love with writing at that age for that reason. I felt like I had a voice that I didn't have as a kid had. So I'm still to this day kind of navigating that as well, because I feel the same way as an adult. I don't feel very comfortable talking about how I feel, and I don't feel very comfortable sharing with people what my life experiences have been recently. But if I can write everything I've gone through in the last 6 months as a character, you know what I mean? That you start to love and even worry about and think about and all that kind of things, that has really made me feel seen by even just my friends, and like my close friends that I think would probably like to be a little closer with me than we are. So writing has always been an outlet that I think really picks up for something that I am lacking. Not aptitude wise, not emotion wise, but there is just something different that I can do when I tell stories, opposed to when I'm like, well, this is how my day went, kind of thing. So I love writing for that reason. I always have.
That's cool. So can you tell us a little known fact about you that, we go, oh, wow.
I have just a goofy one that I enjoy. I think people think that I grew up in some really, really tiny town in Oklahoma, and I didn't. I grew up in a very large city in Oklahoma, in the sense of I graduated with 700 kids from my high school.
Nice.
And we were probably the smallest high school in our area, in the sense of a lot of my friends graduated with maybe 30 or 40 kids in their grade. So all of that to say, I came from a very big high school. So with that said, I was my high school's mascot as a kid.
Yeah.
So I always like people to know that I was Rambo. I was this huge ram. And I say it like that to say that this wasn't like a mascot at like a normal little tiny high school football game. Like, this mascot was bigger than the mascot at my college was here in Belmont, like in the sense of how many kids in my school and how massive it was. So I was that kid. I was a mascot all through high school. I played soccer also, but I was just a big ram. And I just think that that's just the silliest lifeline on the planet. Looking at now what I do and everything that I do, I always think it's so goofy that like I was also the kid in the Ram costume every Friday night, back home at school.
That's pretty cool though. See? All right.
Yeah.
When I meet you, I'm not gonna hug you, I'm gonna ram you, I guess, right?
You got it. I'll do it right back. I'm ready for it. I've been waiting for it.
Awesome. I'll get there. My friend will say, how did she get knocked down? You don't want to know how I got knocked
Yeah,
down.
don't worry about it.
Well, I have to ask because it's not like I'm a huge fan, but I do have a tattoo on my back. My sons and daughters are like all tatted, as what they call it. That's mom, it's tatted. Okay, whatever.
So
But I
our
wanted to
tatted, what
ask,
do you have? What do you have?
of all things, I have a Energizer bunny because I never stop.
Really? I love it. I love that. When did you
I'll show
get
you
it?
when I meet you. I'll show it to you.
Okay.
Well,
Yo,
what happened is I've had it 30 years now. My mom, God rest her soul, passed away 30 years ago in June. So I was just so hurt. I was going through all that emotions, everything in the world, and she didn't care for tattoos. And I just, I went to this tattoo
you said
artist and I drew the Energizer Bunny because that's what she always called me. And I had it tattooed in July of 1994.
I love that. I love that you drew it. I think that's insane.
I
I
drew
drew
it.
I drew my first tattoo as well. So we're buddies on that. We're
Yeah.
Twinkies.
So what do you have? What is it that's on your neck? Is that
This is a firefly.
a firefly? Okay. Oh,
A lot of people, I cannot tell you, Miss Judy, how many gifts I get at my shows that are dragonfly gifts.
yes, right.
I have a whole shrine of dragonflies in my house, and I've just put a little rhinestone on all the butts of it. Now they're little fireflies.
Fireflies, yeah.
But I don't know if you saw Princess and the Frog for any
Of course,
reason.
of course.
So I watch it religiously. I watch it several times a week to this day. It's kind of like my anxiety movie. If I had a bad day, I just put it
I
on. It's
love
on
it.
or
Mhm.
I watch it constantly. I watch it in the bus on the road 24/7 when I'm anxious. Like I watch it all the time. So in that movie, the firefly on that movie is in love with Evangeline, and he thinks that she is just the brightest star or the brightest firefly that's ever been. And she's just like the North Star, right? Like
Yeah.
she's not even a firefly. And I just think that's the most beautiful thing on the planet. And so when you have to have a record label as an independent artist, you just have to have a label. Like associated with your LLC and all that kind of stuff. So my record label that I own and that I work under is Evangeline Records. So everything that we've done has been for Princess and the Frog, and the Firefly is my thing. We sell this at shows as a temporary tattoo, and it's about the size of kind of like your wrist.
Yeah.
And so if you ever come to my shows, you'll see like little 7-8-year-olds running around with like Allie throat tats, and it's the coolest thing that's ever happened to me on the planet. I never thought that that's what would happen with it, because it never crossed my mind. But the first kid that bought one ran into the bathroom at the venue and put it on their throat and came out of the bathroom. And I thought, I did not expect that to happen. I just thought they'd like put it on their little bodies somewhere. Oh my gosh.
How
So I was
cool.
so that's what my firefly is. It's for my Evangeline. And so a lot of our stuff has Evangeline on it as well.
Yeah. How old were you when you got your first tattoo?
I was 18.
18.
Yeah, I went on my birthday. I did. I designed my sleeves when I was like 16. I knew exactly what I wanted. I have wanted to look like this since I was 8. Like I knew exactly that I wanted to be just a walking art piece. I love tattoos. I always have. So all that to say, I designed most of my tattoos before I even started getting them. But my parents were very adamant about, no, you're not until you're 18. Once you get 18, you pay for them, you do your thing, whatever. But until then, like you move out and you're 18, like you're not getting them. And I said, okay. So I just waited and got it done.
So I guess that's sort of your hobby and your pastime is getting tattoos when you have downtime.
I love them. Yes, yes, yes. I actually am working on an entire, because no one else was going to do it, right? So I'm working on an entire Allie leg sleeve because no one else was going to get an Allie leg sleeve.
Wow.
I will. So I have 2 tattoos of myself, as well as I have like fillers all over my leg of like song titles that really mean something to me.
Oh, wonderful.
So the artwork of Grass on the Grave, my best friend drew. And they relate to the song a lot in their own world, in their own lifeline kind of thing too. So they drew the artwork for me with full intentions of getting it tattooed. So I'll get my Grass on the Grave tattoo this week, probably.
Nice.
As a filler thing. So I get a lot of tattoos of my own songs. I really do. I think I'm just the biggest fan over here. You know what I mean? She's worked real hard and I just love her. I think she's doing a great job.
Oh my gosh. Well, you look like you have themes going on, very colorful. They're very beautiful, actually.
I do. This is my only color. I don't think I'll ever do color again, but I have a flower for everybody in my family. So,
Oh, yeah,
um,
color's gotta be, color was intense.
color is intense. Yeah, I don't think I'll ever do it again. I love that did you just launch it on color? Is that what
Yeah.
yours is?
Yes,
Yeah. You
yeah.
just said,
It's
yep.
pink and white.
I was hoping it would be. I know the most recent one, I think he's blue, but I was like, nah, timing wise, this guy had to be pink. Had
Yeah.
to be. I love I love that.
Well, thanks for sharing that. That's pretty cool. Let's see. So do you have like charities that you work for, that you do any time
I
for?
do, I do. We love charity work. We do a lot with animals. So I grew
Oh,
up in Oklahoma, and my mama, and my aunt Nettie, they run a wildlife rehabilitation clinic in Oklahoma. So I just kind of
nice.
grew up in that clinic, taking care of whatever needed to be done, kind of thing. So Wild Heart Ranch is probably one of our largest ones, which is my family's, that we support. We have shows up in New Jersey in August for a sea turtle recovery, that's ran by my buddies Brandy and Bill, who we've worked with since, oh, I don't know, probably 2018 or 2019. And they're just amazing. They're one of the only, I think, East Coast ports that take care of the turtles after the freeze and
Oh,
stuff,
yeah.
all the migrate kind of thing. So we worked really, really closely with them as well. And then Bev has a lot of charities here in Nashville that work with dogs, whether it's just like more of a food-based raising thing or whether it's a sponsored nonprofit foster thing. But we work a lot with animals. Um,
Nice.
and then outside of that, probably more military based stuff like Strings for Hope and that kind of thing that partner music and military together. We do a lot of those things.
Very cool. I wanted to ask you, what is it like to step out on stage in front of all your fans?
It's incredible. There's always a little tiny part of it that always feels out of reach as far as the expectation goes.
Yeah,
Um, because I don't know. I don't know how they got into their heads that I'm as cool as I am, but they really think I'm something. It's wild. And so there's always that part that I'm always like, oh man, I hope so badly I'm everything you want me to be. But at the end of the day, it's just exciting, and it's just an honor and it's just a safe place. I think for a long time it felt a little scary and a little spooky, but now it's kind of getting
yeah,
that point where it's like these people have my back and I've got theirs. Like we're kind of a family at this point, and it's very, very cool. And it's getting to the point too where it's very few and far between where I go and I play at a show where I don't recognize a single person, in the sense of usually I'm starting to find my people
yeah.
in the crowds and like the areas that we play and stuff. Like if I go and play in Iowa, I know I can think of 3 couples right now off the top of my head that are going to be in that crowd that I'm going to see.
Nice.
For me kind of thing. And so that's also something that I didn't expect to be a thing for me ever, was to just go places I'd never been before and have people there that I know.
Yeah.
And then know me. And so it's just the most wild thing on the planet. And as much as it feels like it's like just an overnight thing that I'm lucky to have, it also has taken a lot of really intentional, time and work and stuff like that. So it's just very cool.
And what does it feel like to be standing up there and then have us, the fans, sing your songs back to you? Is that
Oh,
amazing?
that it's not the moment before the roller coaster drops, and it's not the moment before like a gun goes off. It's whatever that moment is. I don't know if you've ever been able to like to not breathe, like whether it's because you're laughing
Yes,
too hard, or maybe you're
yes.
swimming or whatever, or
Mhm.
maybe you literally we're having a medical issue, like
Yeah,
whatever it is. If you've ever not been able to breathe, that first breath that you get back where your brain goes, oh, everything's gonna be okay.
yeah.
That's what that feels like. And I can't
Oh,
explain, but seeing something that I created nonetheless, a lot of stuff in the last couple of years, as much as it probably hasn't came off this way to listeners, um, it took a lot to survive what I've been writing about for the last couple of years.
yeah,
And it's very much a daily effort to survive some of these things. And to see somebody who has not lived a day in my shoes sing a song back at me that saved my life in a way that I can tell it saved their life is wild. You know what I mean? Like we've never even worn the same shoes one day, and I know exactly how you're feeling as you're singing this song, and you know exactly how I'm feeling as I wrote this song. And when I wrote it, it wasn't as glamorous as it is right now for you to sing it back to me. It was me by myself in a bedroom at probably 4 a.m. You know what I mean? Just trying to survive, trying to write music, trying to do something. So that moment really is whatever that moment in life for you is, where your brain goes, hey, we're safe, we're going to be okay. That's what that feels like. And it's it's wild. It's amazing. I wish I could put it in a bottle so bad. Like
You'd be
that's
filthy rich.
I know I wouldn't sell it to anybody. Nobody could have it. It'd be mine. But oh my gosh, that feeling's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, no wonder you're so talented and gifted and this is your career. That's the most amazing answer I've ever heard. You rock,
Oh,
girl.
it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming and it's so special. And I love that you asked that because I don't think I've ever tried to explain that to somebody, but that's what it feels like.
Hey, it's gonna be on video now on YouTube for everyone to hear that. That's amazing. So what are you working on right now? What's coming up for you?
Right now we are getting ready for summer. So we have this horrific beautiful festival called CMA Fest in Nashville. It's coming up. So we've got that coming up and it's funny. It's, you grow up in country music and all you want to do is be a part of CMA Fest. And then the older you get, it's like, oh, I hope I get to be out of town that weekend and like not even have to deal with like driving to the grocery store that weekend. It's just,
I bet.
it's insane. It's wild. So all that to say that is coming up and we were lucky to get placements this year.
Yay.
So, I do have a placement on the fanfare stage and in the fanfare meeting thing, which is always a very cool thing that Nashville does, as well as I get to support Eddie Montgomery on a couple shows as well down for the CMA Fest. So I'm very excited about that. And then going forward into just kind of our summer circuit, which is never as busy as I want it to be, but I'm very proud and very happy with what our summer schedule is right now going into fall as well. And a lot more private parties this year than normal, which are always exciting because those people will follow you forever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's nothing like me coming and getting drunk on your couch on tequila singing you songs that for some reason makes you want to follow me forever. I don't know what it is about that, but it has always worked out for me. Oh, it's such a blast. So I do. We've been doing a lot of birthday parties this year, which to me is the coolest thing on the planet because it's like, I understand to them I'm an artist or whatever, but to me it's like it's your birthday and you wanted me to be here. Like that's amazing. It's just different than like you going out of your way to come to a concert or something. It's like, no, you wanted me to come and like you put forth like financially and effort wise all the stuff that it would take for me to come to your birthday party. Let's go. I want to come make your birthday party the best day of the year. So let's go. So I really, really look forward to those. So we actually have a lot of those this year. And again, those fans are just friends. They're just people that will be around forever and will support me and always buy the new merch. And I will always, buy a ticket, even though they're coming or not. So like those fans and those crowds are just the kindest and like kind of most responsive on the planet. So I'm very excited for all that we have coming up.
Nice. So what's your social media for viewers to find you?
My social media, I always like to say, if you would like to follow me personally, like if you care about more of my life than my music, Instagram is our place. So Instagram, I don't give up my whole life to you guys, but we do makeup, horses, and music and a lot of other miscellaneous on Instagram. So if you want to follow me really closely and personally, Instagram is your place to be. Otherwise, TikTok for the trends, just Allie Colleen. But Allie Colleen Music on Instagram is where you can find me. Anything else, we have a tour directory, merchandise, all of that kind of stuff on the website, which is alliecolleenmusic.com. I try and make my merch like graphic tees for you guys. Something that you would want to wear outside of Allie Colleen as well. So hopefully you'll like them. Hopefully you'll go check them out.
Great. Well, we do appreciate you taking the time to talk to us here at the Hollywood Times. It's wonderful to get to meet you, and I can't wait to see you in person. I will be coming in June to be
Yes, I will be
what's happening out there, and hopefully we can see you at the CMA Fest that you were talking about. This and what's it called? Fan stage?
Oh yes, we made the fanfare stage. So it's fanfare.
Stage.
Okay.
Okay.
It's within the big networking building that we do. I think it's at the convention center this year. So I think it's usually where it always is. But yes, you come to fanfare and then they've always got a bunch of like vendors and booths set up in there as well for country music, which are always very cool. So come check it out. I would love to see you when you come in June if I get to. Thank you very much for making room for me on your platform. I know it's a big world. Lots of really talented artists out there. Thank you for talking to me.
And we will continue to follow you. We found you now, so you're stuck with us. And
yes.
Sorry, but you're stuck with me now.
Oh, it's my favorite place to be.
Yes, and if you ever come out here to Hollywood, we'll show you a good time out here too. We are the HollywoodTimes.net. Our YouTube channel is Hollywood Times Official, so we will be putting this up on that for you to use as well. So, but we do, we're super stoked that we got to talk to you, meet you, and we love your ink.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I've enjoyed it. Until next time. I hope you get feeling better also. I hope everything's well in your world.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.